The first class nearly broke me. I was barely 2 weeks in and already thinking about quitting. But a simple decision to stop overthinking and just keep moving changed everything. And after 3.5 grueling years juggling work, family, church, and school, I finally marched across that stage in my doctoral regalia. And in this episode, I want to share 5 things I learned that helped me finish my PhD. Hello, I'm Larry Witzel. This is Ministry Insights from SermonView. If it's your first time here, welcome. My goal for this podcast is to provide inspiration, education, and affirmation for pastors and other ministry leaders. If you find this helpful, please subscribe and share it with a ministry colleague. Now, this episode is a little bit different as I share my personal experience earning a PhD. Education is highly valued in my faith community. And so what I share may be directly applicable to you if you're considering working on a doctorate yourself. However, these 5 things that I learned are applicable in a variety of other settings too. If you're trying to do something bigger than yourself, something impossibly large, these 5 key learnings could be helpful for you too. So last April, I completed a PhD in strategic media from Liberty University. It was something that I'd wanted to do for years. My dad had a PhD, my older brother has one. And though I had shelved the idea when we launched SermonView 2 decades ago, the dream never really went away. And eventually that dream collided with a practical need. I was developing an innovation framework for Adventist evangelism, and I realized that I needed the rigor of doctoral research to complete it. And so I took the leap. So here are 5 things I learned that helped me cross the finish line. The first is a mantra I often repeated to myself: write, review, submit. My first class was a shock. The workload was intense. And just 2 weeks in, I was ready to drop it. I'm like, there's no way I can do this. But when I found out that there was no refund, I changed tactics. Instead of trying to master everything, I decided instead of deep diving, I would water ski, delivering the minimum viable paper with each assignment. I adopted a rhythm: write a first draft, give it a quick review, and submit. Write, review, submit. No over editing, no obsessing, just keep the momentum. And surprisingly, my grades improved. More importantly, I was actually engaging more deeply with the material. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed." That verse became a quiet foundation for this approach. I committed the process to God even when I didn't feel confident in the product. The second thing I learned is you can't do it alone. A doctoral journey may look like a solo endeavor, but it isn't. During one of my early classes, I read that over 70% of remote doctoral students don't finish. And one of the key predictors of persistence: social support. A 2012 study noted that for part-time students, strong personal support systems that included family, friends, work colleagues, and academic peers led to higher rates of completion. While a 2016 study found that family support was a significant factor predicting academic success. I finished that particular class just before the Christmas break. So over the holidays, I sat down with my wife and asked, how can we do this together? And I had a similar conversation with my team at SermonView. And I got to tell you, their support was essential. You can't do this alone. The third key learning is to stay consistent. Liberty University offers 8-week subterms. If I had taken one class every subterm, I could have finished the coursework in 2.5 years. But life got in the way. A company restructure, COVID, other interruptions. After a few stops and starts, I realized that the key was consistency. Eventually, I doubled up classes to catch up and to stay on schedule, but I wouldn't have had to do that if I had just taken a class every subterm, no matter what. Consistency trumps intensity. Hebrews 12:1 encourages us, "Let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us." Staying in the race, even when I was tired of school, became an act of faith and discipline. The fourth thing I discovered is that the dissertation is not a marathon, but a series of sprints. I thought that the dissertation would be a long, slow grind, but it turned out to be a sprint followed by waiting. Write the proposal, sprint. Collect data, sprint. Analyze and write, sprint. And then wait. Even as I finished, I kept waiting as I was getting changes back from my dissertation chair, and I never really saw any light at the end of the tunnel. The process felt like total darkness until suddenly blinding light broke through. One day I was just done. No finish line in sight until suddenly I crossed it. Isaiah 40:31 became real to me during this time. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. Each sprint required renewed strength, and God kept showing up. Finally, I learned to truly celebrate the win. After my dissertation defense, my committee gave me a few minutes to just sit in that moment. They called me Dr. Witzel for the first time. And as it sunk in and I reflected on the journey in that moment, I cried because I realized how many people had been walking with me through the process. In fact, the acknowledgments in my dissertation list 178 different people who supported me. Jesus carried me through this using people around me to keep me going. I wasn't planning to attend graduation. It's on the other side of the country, but I ended up going, and I'm glad that I made the trip. Walking across that stage in my doctoral regalia made it feel real. Earlier this year, I completed a PhD while leading SermonView and staying active in my church and family life. It took me 3.5 years, and in the process, I learned these 5 things. First, water ski through the program rather than trying to deep dive. And that meant for every paper I would write, review, submit, and move on. Second, don't go it alone. The social support of your family and friends is crucial. Third, consistency was more important than intensity. Take a class every subterm. Fourth, the dissertation was a series of sprints, not a marathon. And finally, take the time to celebrate, reflect on the journey, and enjoy the win. Working on a PhD was a meaningful, life-changing experience. If you're thinking about going back to school yourself, don't wait. Make the commitment and get started. It's going to have a much bigger impact on your ministry than you realize. Have you ever thought about going back to school? Whether it's a bachelor's degree, a master's, or a doctorate, I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment on YouTube or send an email to podcast@sermonview.com. And please share this episode with someone who needs that extra push to take the next step. We still sometimes hear from church leaders, we don't do social media advertising. And every time I hear it, my heart sinks because I know how many opportunities they're missing to connect with people who are spiritually open but far from church. In a world where digital engagement dominates everyday life, this mindset is quietly sabotaging evangelistic impact. If you'd like to hear a real-world story of a pastor evangelist who learned this lesson the hard way, listen to that last episode of Ministry Insights from SermonView. Pastor, you may feel like you're grinding it out in the dark right now, unsure if there's even a finish line in sight. But hear this, God is still working. You are building an eternal legacy, and the seeds you're planting today will bear fruit in due season. So keep going, keep learning, keep growing. God is doing something amazing both in you and through you. I love you guys. I'm cheering for you. We'll see you next time.